All right, so welcome everyone. I'm Elizabeth from Tipples Brews and Wines in Gainesville, Florida. Welcome to our weekly virtual wine tasting. And this week it is just me on camera, but Jeff is in the chat. He's just not camera ready this week. He's sick, so he has to be out of the room so that we don't hear him or see him. So let me go ahead. If you have not gone ahead and opened your bottle, go ahead and do that and pour it now. He did pour me a glass before he left. Since it is a red, we like to chill that in the refrigerator for 30 minutes prior to opening. So go ahead and do that. And I will share our first slide. Okay. So the wine this week is a red, as you can tell, obviously, Argiolos, which may or may not be said properly, Costera, Cannonau from Sardinia. And the ratings are Willy Wong, 90, and food pairings, barbecue ribs, pork or beef, lamb ragu, grilled vegetables, and manchego cheese. So let me stop this a moment and we can talk about what you're smelling and tasting, and I haven't tasted it yet. So I'll be tasting along with you. And then you can share what your pairings are for the evening as well. And I'm going to be asking for a lot more audience participation this week. And I am not beyond calling. So are you going to help me out?
Yes, ours is really cold right now, but
okay.
Which is something I have a problem with doing, over chilling, but it's got a lot of really nice smell right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like the aromas are jumping out of the glass.
Mm-hmm. This isn't something that we're used to here in our group. And I'm tasting tannins right away, and I'm smelling big fruit. Big fruit.
Say we also over chilled it, and so I haven't had a sip yet because I'm like hoping to warm it with my hands a little bit, but smells like I'm gonna love it. I was like, it smells big. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're thinking some dried fruit, probably a lot more like red fruit than dark fruit. But I think also on the back end a little bit of like kind of baking spices, maybe a little clove, stuff like that.
Okay, so red fruits like strawberries.
Yeah, I would probably say closer to cherries and raspberries.
Okay.
Yeah, like cherries, raspberry. Again, like maybe a little bit of clove and stuff like that on the back end. Maybe a little bit of like cola, something like that type of, like a Dr. Pepper, that type of.
Yeah, I was getting that too.
Also dried herbs too.
And I'm getting on the back end a little bit of pepperiness just at the very finish. But yes, and my tasting notes here say strawberries, black cherries, herbs and spices, and a bit of vanilla. So I think that's that Dr. Pepper flavor that you were talking about, is that little bit of vanilla on the end.
Yeah, that's spot on. That's all I can like think about now is Dr. Pepper.
I almost get like with how strong like the herbiness is. Maybe herbiness isn't the right word.
Yeah,
herbaceousness anyway. But it's almost like a black licorice, like
an anise.
Long. Okay. I don't cook a lot, so yeah, that to me is like that big after dry. I'm getting like some of that black licorice.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, there's some sort of, we actually opened ours a little bit earlier than we normally do this time. And I feel like there's a little bit of an earthy component, but I definitely get everything else that everybody said. But we're having some steak with some sauteed mushrooms and onions and Brussels sprouts, and it seems to really go well with that. I had manchego, but I haven't tasted it with that yet. But definitely something like earthy-ish.
Yeah, we got some dark chocolate too, and I can't wait to get to the dark chocolate because I looked at the dark chocolate, I tasted the wine, I'm like, I feel like I'm getting it, but I'm not sure. I don't want to overstep my bounds. So
No. But either way, it's really good. It's yummy.
Yeah. Any other pairings? Like Chris and Robin, you're eating with it. I know you have some kind of food that you could describe.
We made a just a bolognese, very just traditional kind of like Italian, meat sauce goes with big red. I think it goes nicely with it.
Yeah. The back of the bottle said bolognese, so I was promised that it would be good from the winemaker.
Yeah, I think especially some of the fattiness from the bolognese brings out a lot of the acidity in the wine as well.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think it also helps kind of pump up some of that like cherry and then bring that out.
Mm-hmm. And this evening, this is a question for Jeff, so he's going to have to answer in the chat. Every once in a while, like, we have to make sure to ask him a question to make sure he's paying attention. So, hey, Jeff, since we are having red chili tonight, does that go well with this? Because I know what my mom brought over does not go well with this, so we'll save that. So he can tell me whether it goes well with it or not. Yes, it does. Yay. Okay. I was guessing it would, but okay, cool. All right, so let's talk about the label. All right, so Jeff wrote me a bunch of notes on here so that I would know what to say, but so the Cannonau grape, okay? So the grape varietal is there, but if you're just walking through a wine store, probably you're not going to recognize what grape that is, even though it is one that we have had before. And the region is there, Sardinia, which is Sardinia. So it's there, but you may not recognize it because it is written like they do in Italy. And then he wanted to put, it is a very nice label and he likes it, but it is an unusual grape from an unusual location. If you look, we do have the vineyard here, the Argiolos, and I did ask what Costera meant because there were no notes for me on that. So he did look it up and it means hills. So it's the hills from whence the grapes come. So, and if we look on the back, he wrote me no notes about the back. So let's see. You said,
I was just gonna say, we feel like we should say for the general public that's watching YouTube doesn't have the bottle, is it does not have stripes like Tim Burton stripes in it. Like the photograph gives it like a black and white striped look, and I was like, ooh, that makes it look like Tim Burton-y, like Wednesday, like the black and white pinstripes.
Yeah, I think it's just the light reflection.
Yeah, that's yeah. But you would think, I would think if I was just watching this, I'd be like, cool bottle. But
yeah, no, you're right. I hadn't even looked at it like that.
Yeah, it leads mysterious. Wow, words are hard for me, and this is my first drink today.
So, as Robin mentioned before, we do have some food pairings on the back, which are really nice. And this is it? I guess it's listed on the back. I'm not seeing it, but I know that the ABV on this is 14%. Am I missing it? Oh, I see it there, 14%. It's just small, close to the bottom. So, so it does give you some information, but probably not enough if you were walking around a wine store by yourself and you're not familiar with this grape, which I would not have been. So it would probably need someone to recommend and describe what it's like. So let's get into what this grape is. I think that's the next slide. There we go. All right, I did have time to put in some little effects on here. So when we talk about fruit if you look, it says Garnacha and Grenache, which Cannonau is the Garnacha grape. It is the same grape, it's just called Cannonau in Sardinia. So what fruits would we be tasting? We should be tasting some red fruits. strawberry, black cherry, raspberry. So right on the nose there, absolutely. What other tastes might we have? We might have anise, which Julie mentioned, tobacco, citrus rind, and cinnamon. So we're talking herby, earthy type flavors that we said before. I don't remember if we mentioned a citrusy flavor at all, because I'm not really getting that from this, but I don't know if any of you are. Not on this one, Jeff says. Okay, cool. All right, and then as far as oak, usually it's medium oak aging. And this one is aged in French oak barriques. Is that, Jeff, you can tell me if I said that correctly or not. They're very large barrels, and the spice you should taste tonight is coming largely from the grapes themselves, not from the oaks. And then we did talk a little bit about the tannins. The tannins are traditionally medium tannins and medium acidity. And the ABV runs anywhere from 13.5 to 16%. We're at 14. So kind of on the low side for this grape. But that was correct. Thank you, Jeff. So for we talked a little bit about the body of the wine, but this is a medium plus body for this one. And then it is, for me, it's a little bit of a darker color than we're seeing in the picture. So the intensity of the color is a little bit more on this one than in the picture, but it's a nice deep color. It has nice tannins, but they're not aggressively tannic, but you can definitely feel them. Like Rachel was saying, like the minute you're tasting it, you're definitely getting those tannins. Okay, so let me see if I missed anything on here. Oh, okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the Garnacha grape. So there is an argument between whether it's Garnacha or Grenache and which one it should be called. It really depends on the region, but it is from Spain. So that grape is originally from Spain. So Jeff feels very strongly that if you're going to defer to something, it should be Garnacha, but the French actually made it famous, which is why a lot of people will call it Grenache instead of Garnacha, but either one is correct. Tonight, we're going to refer to it as Cannonau, if I remember to do that, because we are, this is from Sardinia, and the Sardinian Cannonau grapevines actually did come from Spain. And then, of course, like I said, the origin of the grape is also from Spain. So you can, it's defensible to call it Garnacha instead. Okay, let's see. So it is from this Aragon region of Spain here. And the Kingdom of Aragon, oh, well, we'll cover that in a moment after we talk about the grape anatomy. We'll talk about the kingdom, not Aragon, Aragon, like Aragorn in The Lord of the Rings. So most of the flavor is going to come from the outside skin of the grape. And it is, I have some notes on this. It is a hardy grape with a thick skin. It is drought resistant. So it's very popular in warm climates, but it is also late ripening. So it needs the same warm climates. And then we've got a lot of flavor from the peripheral zone as well. Okay, so where are we? We are over around here, right in the middle of the latitudes. And here is Sardinia. And let's look at the Kingdom of Aragon or Aragon. So right now it's just here, but from 1035 to 1707, it ranged all the way on this east side of Spain, and then across through there's Sardinia, Sicily, and the southern part of Italy. So it was a very large kingdom that I had never heard of until viewing this slide now. Like not right this second, but a few minutes ago.
Well, and it's funny because it sounds, when you were saying Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, it's like a combination of Legolas and Aragorn. So I was like, I had the Lord of the Rings vibe going before you said it. So it's funny.
Well, and I said to Jeff earlier, I wonder if he was inspired by this. I mean, but I don't know. So many of the names in Lord of the Rings are very, very similar to one another. So here is Sardinia, and the white grapes are grown up here. And then we have the red grapes down here. And really the Cannonau grapes that we're drinking tonight, they own, he told me, but it's not written down. They own a lot of places in Sardinia. So the grapes it's from all over this southern area, but they're not a negociant. They own their own vineyards. They happen to be all over the area so that they get a nice range of flavors. Let me see if I missed anything. He said is a flexible and spicy red wine grape, and it's used extensively in southeastern France in the Rhone Valley as the dominant grape in the GSM red blends, which is Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre. And it's similar use in the US and in Australia. And in Spain and Sardinia, we see single varietal wines made from Garnacha, Cannonau, much more often than we do in the rest of the world. And they also do use it as a blending grape. So Sardinia is the second largest island in Italy, second only to Sicily. And actually the second largest island in the Mediterranean. I'm looking to see if there's anything else that I've missed. Okay, no, I talked about that the grapevines, they came from the Kingdom of Aragon, and that's how they moved from the Spanish region, then through the Mediterranean and into Sardinia. All right, so here is Sardinia. This is not the actual vineyard. I'll show you that in a moment. And this is Sardinia again. He didn't give me a breakdown of the soil this time, but it looks like clay to me. And then we'll talk about this in just a moment. I'm going to stop the share because I feel like I've been talking a lot. And oh, here he says 600 acres. They own 600 acres of across that southern region of Sardinia, and that's where the grapes come from. They're just non-contiguous. Okay, and he said nice about something, so cool. All right, I feel like I've been talking like really quickly, and I haven't given anybody a chance to share more things. So
still really happy with the pairing, and because we've been eating it with the food. Like we haven't gotten to, is this good alone yet, but with the food. And then she pointed out, I think Manchego, was that on the back of the bottle?
Yeah. So the Manchego with the beef that we had, and it's really good. And the price point was amazing, so I told Paul, it was like, oh my God, I will definitely revisit this one.
Super happy with the pairing, but once we finish the food and we start drinking it just alone, I'm wondering what's it going to be like as just a standalone wine, or is it just going to be like a food wine?
I'm having it without food, and I'm enjoying it.
I find it okay standalone.
Yeah, we're having it without food too, and really enjoying it. But when Linda said Manchego at the very beginning, I was like, oh, that would go really well with this. But also, I mean, cheese is my love language, so. But Rachel, I wanted to ask what you thought since it warmed up, because I really liked it from the get-go, and I like it even more now. So I didn't know if you were experiencing that too, or if you were like, actually, I liked it better cold.
Oh, see, I have a tendency to over chill, but I am liking it. I liked it cold and was excited to feel it and see what it was going to be like when it warmed up. And then when everyone started talking about cheese, I think that the tannins have enough teeth that they can handle the fat and the grease of, and I know that sounds kind of yucky when you talk about food, but there's a certain amount of flavor in your fat and your grease. So I feel like this has enough flavor to stand up to that. I think that I'm enjoying it because I have a bit of it's a tradition in our household to have a grilled turkey sandwich. So you've got mayo on the inside and you've got butter on the outside, so you can grill it, right? Yeah, I know. It's a heart stopper, but you try to just manage it. But this can cut through that mayo and that butter. And I'm thinking of, do y'all remember the Tate?
Yes.
Tate Ball Buster.
Tate the Ball Buster, yeah.
Right. And it's got that kind of balanced, it's assertive, but it's balanced.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm really liking about it.
I'm liking that too. And then Jerry, I know you said something before that we missed.
I just said it was easy to drink, very drinkable. We passed the food portion and moved on to the drink by itself and onto the chocolate. And so, okay for all of them. Find it very, very easy to drink.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I'm finding it very easy to drink too, but I feel like I'm getting a lot of complexity in it too. It's not just like easy going down. Okay. And Jeff says this is a great wine to win the pairing at any barbecue.
Well, when we first opened up our bottle and took a very first sip, it was very tight. And we were like, oh no. So we decanted it and let it sit for a while. We had it with barbecue. It was fabulous with the barbecue. In fact, we were joking, saying it's really hard to find a good wine that goes with your beans. But it went great with baked beans. But now that we finished eating and it's been sitting in a decanter for a while, it's really, really good. It's much better.
That's great to hear.
So.
Well, Brian was talking about his ribs earlier today. So I figure this is what we can have when Brian makes ribs for all of us.
We happen to just have a block of Manchego in the fridge, so Chris went and got it. It does go really nicely with it, and I think it brings out a lot of the like fruit characteristics of the wine. Whereas like our meal, to what Rachel was saying, has a lot more of that like fatty flavor. And both go really nicely, but I think they bring out different things in the wine. I feel like the fatty, I think, brought out more like the earthy characters.
I thought it brought us some acidity. But this one, I haven't thought about it.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
I think it brings out some of that herbiness, but a lot of some of that, some fruity. Yeah.
I think it's nice that, because you're eating the different things, you're getting different characteristics from the wine. And then Linda and Paul, you haven't moved on to the chocolate yet then? Jerry said it worked well with the chocolate for him.
I took a nibble of the chocolate and it was like, it speaks to me. So yeah, no, it's very good, so I'm really happy with this wine.
Good. I'm glad. I'm very happy with it too. So I'm glad that on a night when it's just me, it's a red.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I love the wine, but I think I'm loving like just this even more.
No,
that's just me. Well, we'll take a vote at the end. Jeff's going to be really mad at you, Paul.
We can and rate the hostess, I guess.
No, please don't. Please don't. Okay. I am going to tell you a little bit about the winery now. Okay, wait, there's a chat that came across first. Oh, Jeff put a chat in the chat box directly to you, Paul. So he can see that when he comes back, yes. So this is the Argiolas Vineyard. And I don't think this is the family, but I'm not sure about that because they're in a different picture. So this has truly an Italian focus with excellent wine and hospitality. It was founded in 1938 by Antonio Argiolas, who died in 2009 at the age of 102. So drink wine and you will live long. He was the first winemaker on the island to change to modern viticulture techniques, emphasizing quality over quantity. And we know, as we've talked about in the past, that that was a change that came across a lot of winemaking regions to emphasize that quality over quantity. And then his sons, Franco and Giuseppe, joined him in the family business and replanted all the vineyards using only classic Sardinian grape varietals. And then they paired their quality grapes with an excellent winemaker, Giacomo Takis, and now Giacomo's protege, Mariano Muro. And then we can see here, this is the actual vineyard. I just want to like go from vineyard to vineyard. That's going to be my vacations, just going from vineyard to vineyard. And then here it is. And you can see those large barrels that we were talking about. And then here is Antonio. Excuse me one moment. Can you turn down the volume? I'm hearing myself and it's very distracting. So here's Antonio with his sons, Franco and Giuseppe, although we are not sure which one is which. Okay, so before we do this, are there any last comments? Do you have any questions for Jeff? We can put him to work in the chat box.
No. All right, I have a question because
okay.
I have my thoughts about Manchego cheese, but what is it about that cheese in particular that makes it a better pairing than others?
Good question. I feel like we need like, you know, wait time music, like
the Jeopardy, like do do do.
Does Manchego come from sheep, or is it? Am I mistaken? Or maybe
who knows about Manchego?
The back of the bottle also says pecorino. So I don't know if it's like salty cheeses that it's specific. Oh, but we also, hold on.
It is in fact sheep's milk.
Yes. Good job, Linda. Gold star for you.
But yeah, I think
unlike Julie, cheese is my love language.
Okay, pecorino means sheep in Italy. Okay, so all sheep cheese, maybe? I don't know. What, Jeff, do you have more than that? What about it specifically? Is it creamier?
See, Manchego's drier, right?
Is it drier? Okay.
I don't have it on me, and it's not like one of our regulars that we keep, but I love it. But usually I'm thinking like when I'm slicing Manchego, it's one of those ones that like flakes more.
Oh, it's a crumbly one? Okay.
Yeah. And not crumbly in like a goat cheese, like thicker way, and like a dry, I don't know what word better than drier. Not that it's not delicious.
Like a Parmesan-y way.
Like a Parmesan texture. And then
okay. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. And so I was like, does that really like match the tannins of the wine? Like, this is me completely making things up that I know nothing about, but is it matching like the tannins of the wine with the drier nature of the cheese to like complement each other so well? I didn't know. So that's why I wanted to ask.
Yeah, I appreciate your asking because I don't know either. And tonight I don't get to ask anything because I have no answers. So
well, we usually a lot of very similar things are suggested to go with reds. So I feel like this is the first time they've ever been so specific about a cheese pairing. So I was like, okay, why? Like, why this one time, this one cheese? So I was just curious.
No, that makes sense. Okay, so he said the sharpness with the herby rind, some earthiness from the sheep's milk, and that too, it's a good point that dryness pairing with it. Yeah. That he agrees with you, Julie.
Sweet.
Mhm.
Now I want Manchego cheese. Good thing Brian got me 2 bottles. So with the next bottle, I'll have Manchego cheese.
Oh, there you go. Awesome. Well, I left the store today without the bottle and then had to turn around and go get it. I only got like a block down the street, though I didn't get all the way home. Okay. And then he says, agreeing with Julie, but also with Laura, John, Linda, and Brenda. And then, yeah, so they said they assume that it's a Spanish cheese, so it pairs with the Spanish grape. So, and that makes sense because that's what that's the region it's from. So it makes sense that it would then go with a Spanish cheese goes with the Spanish grape. Any other questions for Jeff?
So would they only call it, what is it called?
Cannonau?
If it's produced in Sardinia, or is that called that elsewhere in Spain, or is it just called Garnacha elsewhere in Spain?
I think it's just Garnacha everywhere else in Spain, but Jeff can answer that. And then Grenache in France and the US and Australia. Okay, Cannonau is in Sardinia. And then, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't have a specific question for Jeff. Just the last comment real quick about this is I think this would be a great charcuterie wine. It pairs really nicely with cheeses, but I think it really does play nicely with some of those like fattier cuts of meat and stuff like that you would find on a charcuterie board. I think it would go like most charcuterie boards, you have like a white wine or a rosé or something else like that. And usually these bigger reds are like borderline. I think this would go really, really nicely on that.
I agree with you. Like picturing that, because you're right, it's often rosé goes with everything, but this, yeah, because it's not going to overpower everything on the tray. Mm-hmm.
Might go good with those dry Spanish hams as well.
Oh, true. Mm-hmm. I'm giving wait time.
Funny. Yeah, no, it's just so funny to hear you guys say like I guess because I'm just a red person in general, the charcuterie, like we always do that with the reds. We're trying to just not consume so much food on Tuesday night. So it's also Taco Tuesday in our house every Tuesday. So we don't always do the charcuterie, but and maybe it's because I like drier cheeses. So and fattier meat. So to me, like the fattier meats of a charcuterie tray, I think red wine. And then I prefer drier cheeses. So when everybody's like, I don't think we've ever had chocolate at a pairing. I am going to make every girl angry, but I don't love chocolate. So, yay, Rachel. Linda's like, that's it. I thought we were best friends.
It's gotta be dark for me. I like dark chocolate.
Yeah. I just, I don't know what it is. I'm a salt person. So like the drier the cheese, the fattier the meat, sign me up. And so for me, like when I think charcuterie, I think this is for me ideal. But it does also remind me of a more Italian wine. So I don't know, that it's just funny when everybody's like a rosé or a white. I was like, ew, no, give me all the reds with my like fried cheeses and fatty meats.
I mean, to be honest, I would drink a red with literally anything. So,
pour it in my cereal in the morning. No, I'm just kidding.
As Jeff crosses his arms and judges me.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me, usually for like charcuterie boards, especially if they're like a lead-in or not as an appetizer, but like, we'll get something. Usually for that, I'll have like a lighter wine. So usually like a whiter rosé, and then like a red with the main course or something else like that. If you're like, it's like a mid-afternoon type of thing, 4 p.m. or something else. I was like, well, I don't know if I want like a cab or something else like that 4 p.m, but a nice light wine. It's crisp, it's warm out, a little cheese plate, it's nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would hate to drink a cab at 4 p.m. That's
I was just thinking, Julie's thinking, I drink a cab.
Once the last client's done, I'm in. No, but it's funny that you say that because even in the one time I was in Italy, I'm not an Italian expert, but I will say when they serve it, like the time I was there, it was like the lighter reds that they were serving. They did not serve a lot of whites. It was like limoncello or red wine.
Yeah.
And so, but it was the lighter reds earlier in the day with the charcuterie. And then the heavier reds was what they brought you with dinner.
Yeah. I think that's what you're supposed to do that. It's just that, I mean, some people could do, cab all day. So
listen, you are a grown up and you can drink whatever wine you like whenever you like it. Oh, did somebody have their hand up? David, do you have your hand up?
Yes, David and Rachel have their hands up.
Cheese is very much definitely not my love language.
Okay.
Dark sea salt chocolate.
Okay.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to, Santa gave that to Reese for Christmas, so I have to see if it's still here or not, or if he took it with him to Auburn. Otherwise, I'll be trying that. I have dark chocolate, but I don't have the dark chocolate sea salt. He got
Aldi always has it, so you can always usually find some of the Moser
Aldi is the best for charcuterie. Yep, and like all the charcuterie desserts, breadsticks. Yep, there it is. Yep.
Well, all charcuterie trays are not the same. And, some of them offer heavier drinkers. And depends on what you want to serve. And then what's the next course? In Spain, if you're drinking medium reds, then they bring out the 3 or 4 different kinds of paella. Then you need something heavy to go with that.
For sure.
Ooh, yeah. Actually, now that would be great with paella because of the spiciness.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now I want paella.
I know. I was like, I want that, Jerry.
I'm also with Julie. Like a lot of people like that syrupy or that kind of sweet, that very sweet frosting sweet. I'm a salty, crunchy person. I'm not a red meat eater, but when Jerry was talking about having a charcuterie and having that balance, I'm definitely feeling like back to what Chris was referring to and Robin was referring to, all this cutting through the fat, but when I'm talking about chocolate, I'm thinking more of like a salted almond that's coconut. And then there's chocolate on there too. But of course, like Harriet said, the Aldi is always there for us with the chocolate. And I'm always a salty, crunchy person. And so there's where the cheese comes in the love language, rather than that sugar sweet syrup.
Sounds like we need a charcuterie get together and let's try this.
It does sound like that. Yes.
That we can host. We'll host one of those.
That sounds awesome. Okay, so, all right, I'm going to go ahead and thank our sources. No, I'm not. First, I'm going to explain the wine scores. Okay, so 50 to 74 would be not recommended. Doesn't sound like any of you are there. 70 to 75 to 79 is mediocre, drinkable wine, which may have minor flaws. 80 to 84 is good, a solid, well-made wine. 85 to 89 is very good, a wine with special qualities. 90 to 94, outstanding, a wine of superior character and style. 95 to 100, classic, a great wine. As we've talked before, most of the wine scores that you see will fall between 88 and I'll say 100, but that's very, very unusual. So most of the scores that you're going to see are going to fall between like 88 and 94. And remember that this is all subjective. Wine is an art. Do you like it? Is it a good representation of the grape? Well, Cannonau is a new name, but it's a name for the same grape that we have had before, Grenache. So it is something that we've had, although oftentimes, like we talked about with the French wines, it's in a blend in the GSMs. So, so think about, is it a good representation of the grape? And also, was it something that you enjoyed? Does it pair well? All of those things go into your score. And in the end, it is drink what you like.
Okay, so my question is, when you're, this is probably for Jeff, so when you're rating, are we rating this compared to other Grenaches that we have had, or should it be rated for the Cannonau grade? I mean, again, it's, which we know is the same thing, but the regional differences could have some effect on that.
True. I'll see what he says.
Because we've been sitting here saying, you know, it's a good wine, but we've had some really fantastic Grenaches. And compared to some of those really fantastic Grenaches, this doesn't hold a candle to it.
I'll give it a.
But I don't know how to compare it to another Cannonau.
Okay. I base mine on like what I often think of mine as like pairability of like what I would eat this with. And I feel like you guys said, like you ate it with baked beans. Like,
yeah.
I gave it a higher rating than I normally even give other reds that I love, because some reds that I love, I'm like, but I wouldn't eat it with half the things I love, or I wouldn't share it with my friends because they don't love it as big and as strong as I do. And so like whole picture pairability, drinkability for me is, and that's just personally, I mean, I'm not saying that's the right way to rate, but for me, it's like, damn, I would serve this to so many people, even people who are like, I don't love dry reds. I'd be like, ooh, it's kind of dry, but also delicious and fruity. And so I felt like people pleasing wise, that maybe is how I rate, if that's a way to say it.
Sure. And for me too, because it is a rating, you have your own scale in your head of how you rate. Like that's one of the characteristics you want to know. Does it have versatility? Can I serve it to other people? All things like that you're rating it with. Jeff said, keeping in mind other Grenache is a good idea and reasonable, giving consideration to it being Sardinian. It makes sense to keep in mind and blend together. Also keep in mind that for the price point factor, I forgot about mentioning that. This is much less money than the Alto Moncao. Amazing Grenaches.
Hey, Paul, do you like the wine?
I'm sorry, I thought we were rating the episode, but yeah, the wine's good. I'd say 92.
We'll say rating the episode to the end. Let's see. Julie, they both say 92. Glad they got 2 bottles. Jerry a 91, Linda 93, Chris a 90, Robin a 91. Rachel says, I want this on hand with the Pessimist and the Ballbuster, 91. 89 from the whole group of 4. And then Jeff is laughing. And then David is a 91. I would also do a 91. Yeah. So, and then I think Paul said a 92 for the wine. Okay, so good scores there. Our range from 89 to 93. All right, so let's thank our sources. So we have, as always, Wine Folly, our best friend with these episodes. And I have something that drops down and covers up part of my screen. Then we have 750.com, Wikipedia, wine.com, Grapes and Grains. I think that's the first time we've seen that one. Exclusivewine.com and Delicious Italy. Okay, so for next week, I did see this week. I think you guys are going to be happy. So we are going to Paso Robles, California. We're going to be drinking the Opaque Malbec. Wine Enthusiast 91. Food pairings, stuffed jalapenos. Ooh, that sounds good. Venison in a hunter sauce, carne asada, and barbecue sauced duck. And yes, I did add the tilde to the N for Jeff. So hopefully you will join us next week, and it will be us next week. It will be both of us. So then I can ask all the dumb questions I want to ask, and Jeff can answer them for me or try to. So I will stop the share and catch up with the chat. Okay, so Chris or Robin or both, very excited about this. Their Petit Verdot was excellent. Unless they vote you off the island. Yeah, well, I vote to keep you on the island, Jeff. So, and then Julie's excited for next week, and they are not. Thank you. I keep it real, Linda. I keep it real. You know, I need Brian to make me a shirt that says Elizabeth keeps it real.
Well, that's what my daughter says. Emma's like, Elizabeth keeps it real, Elizabeth. And I was like, yes, because we more than once. I was like, yeah, Elizabeth keeps it real. She's like, okay.
Okay. And then let's see. I was looking to see for his notes. Oh yeah. It made one of our favorite wines last year. So, but we're going to try a different grape. Okay. So we are going to stop the share in a moment. So thank you all for coming. Cheers, everyone. And let me stop the recording. All right.